You're listening to the Fan2Fan Podcast, and on this episode, John, Pete, and I are going down nostalgia lane as we reminisce about our video store memories. Here we go. And I figure between the history that you guys have growing up, as we talk about VHS and video stores and mom and pops,
when your goal is to find the worst horror movie ever made that's in the store that you've never seen, it's always a long process of separating out.
All warehouse record and video stores have a sensational video rental program. Right now, rent the movies of your choice for only $2 per movie per day. That's right, $2 per day. Hundreds to choose from, including Raging Bull, Ordinary People, Airplane, Coming Home, Fame, Superman the Movie, The Jazz Singer with Neil Diamond, or many other great movies on video at only $2 per movie per day. Where at the warehouse? Why not see the movies of your choice at home tonight? Movies on video, $2 per movie per day. Where at the warehouse?
You've got, pretty good inventory to pick from. Golden era of late 70s horror, the 80s horror. If you were, renting from a mom and pop that had been around for a while, more likely that than a Blockbuster or a Hollywood or a Family Video. But if you were at a mom and pop, they were the ones that would keep that copy of Night of the Comet or any Charles Band movie because, they couldn't afford to get 60 copies of Titanic or something that Blockbuster would have had because they would not have Army of Darkness on the shelf, but the mom and pop would.
This is true. We had a mom and pop shop in Wisconsin at the Wisconsin Plaza. I always forget the name of this one, Pete.
That would be Unreal Video.
And Pete definitely frequented this place more than I did. I had been in there a couple times. My parents, you have to know, growing up, they were really big warriors. So this was the kind of place that had the, beaded curtain into the, at the time, rated X, now NC-17, whatever you would call it. I would go into these places and I had seen way too many movies. So anytime there was that, back room and sketchy owner, I got a little nervous. So I usually didn't go to that place by myself a whole lot. Well, we grew up in Smithtown. I grew up in Wisconsin on Long Island. Yeah, 10 minutes from the mall, but a good 1 hour from New York City, 1 hour east.
How far of a bike ride was it? Because that was the true measure of any comic shop, video store, head shop that you were going to go to.
Unreal was closer to me, and I'll give a little context after John, tells his side of getting to the video store.
For me, it would have been a good 20 minutes. For Pete, it was definitely closer. Pete, am I mistaken in thinking is this the one? Was it by the library? That's
yeah. So the Wisconsin Plaza was your standard 80s suburban strip mall where we had the branch of the Smithtown Library there. That was probably the place that I frequented most of all. The Great Hollow Pharmacy, of course, you could forget that, to get your Big League Chew, Star Wars figures.
Wiffle ball bat. Yeah,
always good supply of wiffle ball bats there. Yeah, so Unreal Video was there. I want to say there was a pool. Didn't you worked at that pool company, right?
Yeah, for about I think it was about 4 or 5 hours.
John is known for his dedication to his employers. He puts in a good half a shift. And
there you go.
It's funny the memories that you have because I don't remember that store other than that it existed. But the reason that I do was because I remember John telling me that he was going to start there and lasted 4 hours. I was I can't do this and done. So that's my memory of that place. I'm oh yeah, that pool store was there. But the name of it, anything else to do with it, no clue.
Well, and I will say one of the reasons that I went to that video store one time, I was on the great hunt for a copy of Better Off Dead.
Does it ever feel like everyone's got more going than you do? Oops. Well, you might be right.
You look pretty stupid to me. Thank you.
But all you need is guts.
You want a race? I'll take you on any day, sucker.
And you'll never doubt yourself again.
I haven't even been to New York City.
Better Off Dead.
And that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that.
Rated PG.
There were a bunch of movies back then that did not come out for general sale. And Better Off Dead early on was one of those movies. So I went in that store, especially when they were closing down, to see if I could buy the copy that they had. And he was like, "Oh, I'm selling it for $75. It retails for $90." And I was like, "What?" So that was actually the price, because it was basically the price for a video store, not a consumer.
That echoes the one time when I started going on my hunt for a copy of Batman Returns, wanted a copy of my own, just like Better Off Dead with You, and go to a local store that had 4 or 5 copies. And I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm going to go in there and buy one for $10, $15, right? And all of a sudden, $100. Unbelievable. I can rent this from you right now for a few bucks, but you're asking for $100? This is insane. But then hindsight now, when you start realizing what those stores paid for those movies, but then also they had folks like us who rented the living daylights out of movies like The Living Daylights, and they were able to make some of their money back. In some cases, now, like, I'm really grateful for the mom and pops that took chances on movies that were not the standard box office fare, like all the big box office popcorn stuff that everyone saw that was on every shelf, the random stuff like Eliminators, really cheesy movie that if you've never seen, it's like an 80s movie with a cyborg, a ninja, a wannabe Indiana Jones type analog character.
Wow.
There's an evil, like, mad scientist who goes back in time into like the Roman era and brings back Roman soldiers. It's nuts. It's crazy, but it had a ninja.
This is Colonel Nora Hunter. She is the mastermind behind the most dangerous mission anyone has ever undertaken. She is one of the Eliminators.
You think just because I'm a woman I can't pilot this wreck?
That's right.
Each one is the ultimate specialist. Together they are Eliminators. Rated PG.
For a young me, I was like, if there's a checkbox, right? Like, you've checked everything. Yes. Cyborg, ninja, Indiana Jones guy. Like, this is amazing. And that would have never been, I would have never found that at a Blockbuster.
Well, when Pete and I were younger, there was no PG-13. So if you were going +1 up the rating scale from PG, you're going to R. There was no like family film R movie out there. And PG was like Goonies and stuff that had the S word and different things in it. So it's like, you know, going up to R, then you really had to put one over on your parents to really, you know, be able to watch stuff like that. And of course, Pete and my parents were smart and not smart in the fact that, you know, they both had basements and we had cable. And of course, you know, being kids of, you know, relative half decent intelligence and way more desire for mischief, you know, there's definitely going to be times where you're able to watch those things, but getting it from the video store was always tougher.
I remember
and both having dads that would procure illegal cable boxes in the 80s.
That's right. Oh, that's something else you shared a few times. I think we're past the statute of limitations.
Yes.
So your dad's in the clear.
To jog back real quick, because I just wanted to share like my attempt at purchasing a VHS cassette back in the day. Same on-reel video. This had to be about 1988 because U2's Rattle and Hum film came out. At that point, had been converted by my first girlfriend's older brother to listening to like The Cure, New Order, U2, alternative 80s stuff that I still love to this day. You know, I can't just rent this. I want to own it. And having very little understanding of economics, I, you know, did the walk from my house. And the great thing for me going to on-reel video was rather than having to go on like the main road, if I cut through our junior high school, Great Hollow Intermediate School, there was like this wooded area and there was like a back way that you could go behind like the residences. So it was like this little, it wasn't really an alley. It was like a dirt path type thing. And then I could get into the, into that shopping center. So it was great for me. Did this by myself. I walk in, I've got my Velcro wallet and I'm like, I'd like a copy of Rattle and Hum. And they're like, okay, great. We have a copy. I'm like, fantastic. So I like opened, like did the little, you know, on Velcro the wallet, start pulling out like the, you know, 20, 40, and like, that'll be $99.99. And then it was like Chevy Chase in Vacation where I'm like slowly putting the bills back in the wallet. like I don't have that kind of money. Are you crazy?
Now the movies that we were like searching for years for are like falling out of a Walmart bin and nobody wants them. It's like for $3.99.
They're a YouTube search away, John. You can usually find pieces here and there. And sometimes, to be fair, when I find them and you could tell that someone maybe copied a copy of a copy and then uploaded it on YouTube, sometimes those are the best because there's something about having the noise, the tracking that just adds a little bit of authenticity. And I find that a lot as a fan of physical media when buddies of mine will pick up like a 4K version of Flight of the Navigator or The Last Starfighter. There's a part of me that's like, I get it, because having a pristine copy of that, there's something like you're trying to get the best version of the memory of watching The Last Starfighter that you can, and special features, great soundtrack, totally get it. But there's also that part of me that only remembers that movie with a little bit of snow at the top, getting a little bit of a commercial because, you know, your finger wasn't fast enough, or your cousin who gave you a copy really wanted to see, you know, whatever they were promoting at the first bumper, like, oh, they're showing Short Circuit 2 next Saturday. Cool. Now I got the trailer for this on this VHS.
And now, an experiment from USA Network Labs. Who is superior, man or machine? Category 1, warfare. Category 2, language.
Your mama was a snowblower.
You four-eyed idiot!
Category 3, dancing. For final test results, watch Ali Sheedy and Steve Guttenberg in Short Circuit, a USA premiere event, Wednesday at 9, 8 Central.
This is great. There's something about that authenticity that I miss. But again, and not being old man on the lawn, but we've talked about this too before. In a world where you could watch it on any streaming service, there's something cool about the adventures that you guys had that seemingly I had too, discovering these movies and then getting good stories about them. Because that thing you were talking about, that shortcut, Pete, I'm just imagining like that's just a Stand By Me.
And, you know, no dead body, but like definitely older kids on their mongooses, like biking through the woods there where you would, you know, you wouldn't like fear for your life type thing. But like, you know, it was, I would call it light bullying. Like if you ran into the older kids, like they would, you know, they would give you a hard time. So like, it was always like one of those, like you would look down because it was like a straight shot. So you could see all the way down to like the road. So you'd be like, all right, there's no one there. So like you would basically book it down the path to get, you know, to the video store. And then on the way back, do the same thing, hoping that, you know, none of the older kids you were going to stumble upon you and, you know, give you shit. So that
running
was always
gauntlet.
Our drama.
It kind of had this. It kind of had the same like risk factor as going to the arcade we've talked about. The fact that it's like, you know, there's 16, 17-year-olds here. They're smoking, and you want to be there, and people got their quarters lined up, but then you're just like, don't make eye contact with this guy. He looks really scary. It's like similar kind of stuff.
If there was a video game at the front of the arcade, like you could play that, you wouldn't. I personally would not venture past like the 10-foot mark. So like you would see something in the back, like it's like I'm pretty fucking good at air hockey, but am I good enough to come out without, you know, like a shiv in the in the heel?
One of the interesting things, Bernie, is like, again, because like my parents they kind of had like a distance of about half a block that like I'd be allowed to ride my bike. I had to sneak around quite a bit and I got caught one time heading to the mall. My mom gave me the old, where'd you go today? And of course I continued to propagate the lie as long as I could, even though she saw me there. But Pete and my rental history, if there's such a thing, was interesting because we became really close friends in around junior year. So Blockbuster was basically already the thing at that point. So we were already at the quote unquote big box store by that point.
The demise of On-Reel Video and then really all those mom and pop stores really, I mean, at the time, I don't think we really understood the ramifications of it, but like certainly as I've grown older, like I, you know, when I look back and, you know, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, like I don't have like thousands of stories. It's not like when we talked to Alan the other week about his experiences working at the video store in Massachusetts. I don't have like all these like wild stories. I just have like really fond memories of my time in there, like searching for, you know, movies and things like that.
Well, one of the things I remember, Pete and I have joked about this with other people with Blockbuster, was so they started to do this very like regimented thing where it was like they would call out the name of the movie and then hand it around the detector to you. But the problem with that was Pete and I were consistently renting movies like sorority sluts from Mars or something like that. So like then you'd always have the
it was Venus. It was from there.
Yeah, for Venus. Yeah, sorry.
Mars is a sequel.
They would always have this blank look, like they couldn't figure out on the fly. Maybe they shouldn't announce that one. The whole store would get to hear sorority sluts from Venus is due back on Tuesday, and Pete and I would be like hiding our faces in shame as we walked out of the store. I could guarantee you, Bernie, that almost every movie we rented was the only copy in the store.
Bernie, I don't know if you did this with your friends, but this was kind of our basic trip to Blockbuster. It was kind of like a ritual. It was almost like a dance, like if we could have somehow choreographed it, it would look very similar each time that we went. So we would come in often with our friend Jay, sometimes our friend Matt. There, every so often it'd be like a bigger group of us, and you'd start at one end of the new releases, kind of just do like a pass through to see what was there, what was available. Then you start to hone in more, like, okay, do you want to see this? You throw out, you like look at the back of the box, you start reading stuff. Then maybe you delve into the actual genre areas. And this, no joke, like we would spend an hour in the fucking store.
Easily.
Just the way that Blockbuster was lit, it was like so bright. It was like this just thinking about it, like I feel like my soul's being sucked from my body.
Nobody has the movie I want.
Hey, if it's on video, Blockbuster probably has it. I mean, we have over 10,000 videos.
Wow.
I'll watch these fast and have them back tomorrow, I promise. Relax. At Blockbuster, you can keep your videos for 3 evenings, so take home plenty. And use our 24-hour quick drop.
Do you have any children's videos?
Sure. Blockbuster's America's family video store. We have more kids' videos than any place else. More movies, more nights, more fun.
Blockbuster Video. Wow, what a difference.
Well, you're spending an hour going down the aisles to rent an hour and 23 minutes.
Yeah. It would really just be like, it was like light bargaining. Like someone would be like, oh, hey, look, Jack Frost, not the Michael Keaton movie. What do you guys think? And then you would like gauge people's reaction to be like, or like, yeah. And then you grab it or not. And then you just, again, like you keep circling until like the selection windowed down to like 1 or 2. And then there's usually a couple of moments of exasperation of like, are we really doing this? And like, okay, all right, grab sorority sluts from Venus. Let's go.
Yeah. And then we probably, because of how long we took to do this, we probably didn't pop the tape in until about like almost 11:30 most nights, or 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
But we would look at the time of how long is this movie? Oh, 74 minutes. That's okay.
Now, did you guys have the habit of also having a backup movie as well? So you would go in and you would maybe try to go for, hey, hopefully they have Evil Dead 2, but if they don't, I guess we'll get The Dentist. That's fine. But you know what? If we're going to get The Dentist, I'm going to want another one just to be on the safe side, something else just to kind of round off the evening. And I did this a little later high school, and Chris and Dre, we would have like our bad movie night competition where we would try to get the worst movie. So we knew we were always in for 3 movies, but sometimes we'd need like a chaser, that one movie, that 4th dark horse movie. And we'd start at like 6 or 7 p.m. on a Saturday, because that was usually like our ritual. You guys were talking about like, you could choreograph it. We'd go at like 3 or 4, go down the aisles, narrowing down our movies, because it was as much a getaway from the day job and something to do on the weekend. But also we knew we were going to have 6 or 7 hours with each other where we would talk about what was going on in our lives and work and anything else. But we were also kind of competing to see who could pick the shittiest movie that was also entertaining, because that was a part. It couldn't just be shitty. It would have to be fun. And, even if you're getting 1 or 3 or whatever, I have to imagine like sometimes you would be like, all right, well, let's get this other movie just in case the first one doesn't pan out.
We definitely did a version of that. And of course, like if we did this on a Friday, we would probably grab 2 or 3 movies for the weekend, just knowing we'd probably hang out. We were kind of priming ourselves for modern day. We do the exact same thing sometimes now, where we'll intentionally pull up a bad movie, and then it's almost like we can't make it past 5 minutes. So then we have a backup just in case. Even on streaming, we do the same thing.
Well, and there are movies that you enjoyed when you were younger that, maybe you shouldn't revisit. There were movies like Amityville 3 that you're like, I remember not liking this at all, but maybe there's something there. And then 5 minutes in, you're like, oh, this was a horrible choice. So what? we'll turn this right off. Like John and I had that years ago where we both talked about this movie, like the Apple Dumpling Gang with like Don Knotts and Tim Conway.
First, the West's worst bank robbers blew into town.
Theodore. Hi, Frank.
Then they blew it up. In Walt Disney Productions' new screen comedy, The Apple Dumpling Gang. See Tim Conway and Don Knotts in The Apple Dumpling Gang.
Ready,
And we're like, oh yeah, I remember that being really, really funny. And so we're like, yeah, let's rent it for the hell of it. And we did. And I'm like, oh God, this is painful.
It's so bad. And I love Tim Conway, and it's so bad. Ghost of Mr. Chicken's way better. Don Knotts.
I was going to say, what is it? Shakiest Gun in the West and Ghost of Mr. Chicken. If you're going to go Don Knotts, that's the way you go. Obviously not Apple Dumpling Gang.
Well, while we're just kind of riffing on all this stuff, I got a question to pose to both of you. This is going more to like VCR days. Specifically, like when you're playing something in a VCR, one of the great joys that I had when I was younger was trying to pause on a certain scene at like the perfect moment. And again, people that did not grow up with this are not going to have any fucking clue what I'm talking about, where you can literally pause and scrub, frame by frame if you'd like these days. But I distinctly remember taping the miniseries when it aired, and then having, I don't know how many tapes it took up, but there was one scene where they're like battling on the mothership, and Mark Singer is like shooting down the hallway, and like the special effects of the lasers were like coming right at the screen. And so I remember my brother and I and some friend over, and like we have to pause it like at the perfect moment when the laser is like just hitting like the camera. VCRs being, fairly rudimentary technology, like when you hit pause on those things, it didn't pause at that moment. Like it would go forward a couple of frames. And so we would spend like 30, 40 minutes trying to get that shot.
Yep.
And again, days before, like even a remote, like you had to sit on the floor in front of the TV with the VCR. Ours was on like a little stand below it, and sit there and just keep hitting pause and like, no, it didn't do it. Then you have to rewind it and then do it again. And but hours of entertainment. Not.
Years ago, when the intertubes first started, I remember seeing an article about the most paused VHS movie of all time. What do you guys think that movie is?
I don't know why it jumped in my head, but I'll guess Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That's it.
We can all guess what scene.
Yeah. the most amazing red bikini scene of all time. And Pete, one of the things I was thinking is you would be able to tell when these were paused over and over and over by other people, because it would glitch as you're watching it, trying to get through that scene after, because it would warp the tape, I guess.
Is that what they called it? Warping?
Yes, that's what they called it. Well, there was always too that urban legend that you could get a quote unquote like dirty VHS cassette if it had been in like someone else's machine. Maybe they had not used like one of the head cleaners. And mind you, I'm still in the PG rated section right now, so just but that you could kind of contract whatever they had, and it could mess up your VCR.
Bernie, that is the truth. So
is it really? Okay.
Pete knows this.
Is this from your 6 hours at the VCR company?
No, this is modern day now. I learned this because I'm a collector. Okay. I am a collector. It's a bit of a what they call it, a disease.
Anyway, you collect VCRs?
I do. Well, no, I have a few VCRs, and I recollected my favorite 80s movies on VHS because Goodwill, they were 10 cents each.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And there's so much nostalgia to have like the actual tape with the sleeve and totally get it. So how many VCRs do you have?
Well, I have like 2 or 3 VCRs.
Okay. I have 2 or 3 more than 99.9% of the population.
Like every TV in my house that has some kind of streaming device also has a VCR attached to it, which is crazy. But I was collecting some of these tapes, and I came across one that had like that visible white mold in it. And it supposedly will mess up your VCR because it just grabs it right in there and then throws it into your other tapes. Yeah, I mean, I just love collecting. I love physical media, and I like it as like a display. So it's fun, and I don't love to spend a lot of money on collections necessarily, and like plunk down $100 for like a tape. I'm not really like that, but it is fun having some of those tapes around. It just seemed the art from when I was younger on the VHS.
When I was living in St. Pete, Bananas Records, which is like a giant collection of vinyl, but they sell DVDs. They sell like old equipment, like old stereos and things like that. Like John and I, when we were younger, made a series of like really bad videos, TV show pilots starring an Alf doll, things like that. So I still have these on VHS, but I had no way to play them or to digitize them. But I think I paid like $15 for a working VCR. I brought it home. I bought some software that digitizes VHS tapes and worked like a charm. With a little bit of setup, it takes a little while because you have to literally like play the tape and have it digitize it. But I was able to digitize all those embarrassing memories from when I was a child so that I can relive that embarrassment in perpetuity forever and ever. I think I have a bunch of them are uploaded to my YouTube channel, but I think most of them might be private because I didn't want to embarrass other people.